I mean, this was a team, no Carson back at the end of last season. Gunnar Stockton came in for Georgia. I thought he played okay. I'm not saying he's some elite talent, but Georgia clearly didn't feel the need to go into the portal, dipping for what I thought was a pretty good transfer portal class for quarterbacks if you were looking for one, which didn't seem to be the case. We got an over/under win total at 9.5. We got one of the odds-on favorites to win the SEC here and the national championship as well. The SEC championship odds for Georgia are plus 330, 350, depending where you get it. Second odds-on favorite to win the SEC. I have some concerns about this team. Not what I was saying last year. I mean, Georgia had what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 players drafted. 13 players drafted in the NFL. 3 first rounders. Your 3 interior offensive linemen went in the third and second round as well. So you had 6 guys drafted in the first 3 rounds, 8 guys drafted in the first 4 rounds. This was a talented team last year, a team that could have, maybe should have beaten Alabama. Ended up falling, in the college football playoffs because of, an unfortunate turnover on a strip sack and a kick return for a touchdown. Like, really, that game was pretty darn close. And small margins there. Like, that's how talented that team was, despite not having great quarterback play down the stretch or inconsistent quarterback play. What are we looking at now? Lots of names to replace, but lots of stars behind some of these guys are going to be replacing that NFL talent. So, CD, how are we feeling about Georgia heading into 2025?
Yeah, they're a team that's obviously going to be having high expectations, playoff conversations, SEC conversations, national championship expectations. That's where we're at with Kirby Smart, where he gets the benefit of the doubt. Where yes, they lose 13 guys, and they still are in a day and age where even with the portal, like hitting some attrition, even after losing their quarterback to Miami, like yeah, we still believe them as to be one of the favorites for the whole thing, like the whole freaking thing. So it's incredible. You gotta tip your hat to Kirby Smart. I think we kind of forget like this was not always the case at Georgia. Like this is a relatively new thing where yeah, they're the most talented team just about that they're going to be playing every year, and they got a tough schedule too. Let's say tough schedule, like some high end, high quality, high end teams that they'll play early or that they'll play, and then um, it's there for them. Like we said, playoff or bust. I do think though that this schedule's not tough enough to win 9 games and go make the playoffs. So we'll get into a lot later on and go through the positions and all that kind of stuff. What we're thinking, but it's it'll be interesting. It's a fun team. A lot of athletes, a lot of new faces too. A couple different transfers, guys getting opportunities that have been sitting behind guys, shuffling along the offensive line, and of course Mike Bobo still there with Georgia, as Georgia fans just so happily still have him there as their offensive coordinator. But yeah,
I don't even think he's bad. I don't know
no,
why Georgia fans are complaining. I literally do not think he's a bad offensive coordinator at all. But speaking of coaching staffs, though, it's kind of been crazy and impressive about Kirby Smart's run. He's not at the level that Nick Saban's at in terms of like the accolades he sees, but like Georgia has the target on their back, right? That's a team that has. You're like, oh my gosh, we're playing Georgia. Like that is the team that you do not want on your schedule because they've consistently been the most talented team. Not only in the SEC, but one of the most talented teams in college football year over year for the last 5 years. Virtually zero coaching change this past year. And coaching continuity has kind of been a consistency for Kirby Smart these last couple of years, which is shocking. Shocking to me. Obviously Dan Lanning going over to Oregon, that's more of the exception than the rule. For the most part, like I guess Fran Brown also, but generally
it's at
it's been
Georgia State.
pretty.
Uh,
Yeah.
Sean Elliott? No,
Well, Elliott ended up. You're thinking of Elliott that went to South Carolina. That was the head coach of Georgia State.
Del McGee. Del McGee.
Oh well, Del McGee. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, good call. But in general, it's better coaching continuity, including virtually zero coaching change this year, which could have a significant impact, I think, specifically on the offensive side of the football with a first year starting quarterback, not a first time starting quarterback, first year starting quarterback, a running back room that I think is all right, maybe not super deep, and then a wide receiver room that's got a lot of pieces to it. So let's break it down. Let's go to the skill positions. Gunnar Stockton. Do people really want us to break down Gunnar Scott? I mean, yeah, he was a little bit inconsistent. He's talented. He's pretty athletic. He beat Texas. I mean, what else do you want from the guy? I mean, the guy's going to be playing with talented enough guys where it may not matter how elite he plays. I mean, Georgia's won their national championships with Stetson Bennett. I mean, come on.
The one thing I will say, I want to ask you a question here, put you on the spot. Would you rather for the 2026 season, or 2020, I'm sorry, 2025 season, have Gunnar Stockton or Dylan Raiola?
Dylan Raiola. Is that crazy?
I don't think it's crazy. I think Raiola, by the
Are
end of
you?
2025, will probably be or could be a better quarterback than Stockton. I think he
Yeah.
can win a title with both of them. I don't wanted to bring that up because I was looking at their quarterback room and I'm like, eesh,
What
man.
happened?
Yeah, like this was crazy not too long ago, and here we are. I Puglisi, I know that they like, and he's good recruiting. They got some guys that are young coming in, whatever. But
Yeah,
it's just
Montgomery.
interesting that Rayola was there, right? And he's obviously not, or was
Well,
almost there.
well, yeah, and the thought that Jaden Mayava might be at Georgia as well. Like he missed out on him.
Man,
Like that's a
Rashada,
guy that
Jaden
I would.
Rashada,
I
Carson
mean, I would
Beck.
probably have Gunnar Stockton over Jaden Rashada, but Jaden Mayava for sure is a guy that I'd have over Gunnar Stockton. Oh my gosh, like he would be unbelievable for this team.
Yeah.
Um, so who's around Gunnar Stockton right now? Nate Frazier at running back. I think he's really good. Like in his action last year, I mean, ETN was a little bit banged up with some injuries. I think Nate Frazier was fantastic. All right, in those spots, I think he'll be really good. Just as a true sophomore, he might be one of the better running backs in the SEC. Uh, I'm not going to bet on that, but yeah, definitely. Josh McCray is someone that I think like maybe fans are a little bit higher on him coming in than maybe I am. I think Josh McCray. I think he was pretty good for Illinois. Not my favorite back in that backfield. They had a couple guys over there that I liked over Josh McCray, but the staff seems to like him. He's a different kind of piece, definitely big bruiser back that they're going to like having there on the goal line. And just in general, like when you get leads, and you're trying to wear these teams out and out physical them, that's a guy, that's a good player to have on your team. Um, Anything else? I mean, you could say about the running back room aside from those two? I mean, Cash Jones somehow getting reps all the time. I mean, he's kind of good.
Yeah, the one thing about with McCray too, like he is a veteran, like old dude, and the rest of that running back room outside of Cash Jones, right? It's young guys. So like, I think it's a nice stability to have there. If Frazier does go down, I think there's a significant drop off. Frazier, I think, is very good. I think in terms of true freshman SEC running backs that hit the ground running last year, it was Frazier, it was Jaden Baugh, and then we saw
Braylon Russell.
Braylon Russell from Arkansas. So it's interesting, and he's obviously right there with those guys and being legit alphas. And I think a room where it's him, right, not sharing it with nobody, I think it's a lot of fun. But yeah,
Then going to the wide receivers, these pass catchers, and I'll include tight ends and pass catchers because they got some good ones over here at Georgia. Noah Thomas and Zach Branch are the headliners in the portal. So that means like in the last 2 seasons, your portal gets, um, and I guess I'm not including Dominic Lovett, but the guys that are still on this team: Noah Thomas, Zach Branch, Kobe Young, and London Humphreys. I think all do very different things. Colby Young was a little bit disappointing for me last year in a pretty big way. But London Humphreys, you're a big play guy. Thought he was awesome at Vanderbilt. Showed some real promise there. Super raw guy. We talked about him last year. Like, hey, he might not start, but like this is a good situation for him to, come up, and he's still a little bit younger as well. But yeah, Zach Branch and Noah Thomas, man. I mean, Noah Thomas is a good, solid receiver. I don't know that he's necessarily a dominant number one, but he's a good receiver to have with really solid hands, can be a red zone threat, runs pretty polished routes, big guy, long. Zach Branch, though, is the guy that you look at and you're like, whoa, okay. Do you remember him at USC? I mean, this is one of the fastest players in college football, one of the most explosive players. Like, you have to find ways to get him the football. I don't think USC did that enough. Granted, USC has some really talented receivers on their squad. I mean, like, really good players where, like, maybe there wasn't enough to go around for everyone. And even in his touches, they still manufactured him touches, right? He's got caught 47 balls, more than any other receiver on this team did last year in 2024. I'm looking for him to like just hopefully explode, man. I mean, I'm not sure this is the best situation for him to go. I think he could have gone to some offenses where he could be utilized better, but man, this is a really nice piece for Georgia to have. And then Dylan Bell, last year wasn't a transfer, he's going to be a senior. He's a guy that Georgia fans have talked about, the staff has talked about. Kind of came onto the scene, a little bit more last year. Struggled catching the ball, to put it lightly.
As did some other Georgia
Yeah,
receivers.
yeah, that was a huge issue. So I think like Noah Thomas, I know it doesn't look good. You look at his targets to receptions ratio, but I think he was being thrown contested balls. Not all the balls thrown to him were the best either. Like Noah Thomas has solid hands. Zach Branch, I think, has solid hands. Dylan Bell fixes any of that. I think if Dylan Bell didn't have a drop problem last year, I think we would be talking about him as the best wide receiver in this room.
Yeah, yeah, and I think this room feels a little different than last year. Last year, my complaint on Georgia was that I thought would potentially be the reason why that holds them back from winning a title was like dynamic explosiveness and pure talent in that receiving core. And I think you upgraded that with Noah Thomas. Like you said, I don't think he's not going to be, Cam Coleman, Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams type where it's just taking over games. But I think he could be a very, very solid, consistent piece for you that you missed last year. Dylan Bell, you're hoping he gets better year over year. And then obviously Zachariah Branch and what he can bring to the table. I think also too what I see with Branch, Humphreys, even Bell to some extent too, like his run after the catch ability for Gunnar Stockton to get into a groove, to make easy completions. That's going to be up to Mike Bobo to help his quarterback out. Like, I don't think Stockton's a guy I want sitting back there 30, 35 times a game and just going through read 1 to 2 to 3 and picking apart defenses like that. I want manufactured touches. I want schemed open things. I want easy access for Gunnar Stockton to be able to do his thing, use what he does best, right? Also, get his legs involved too. Something we didn't talk about with the running back room. I think you have to add Stockton into that piece as well, more so than Beck and some other quarterbacks you've had recently at Georgia. But yeah, this receiver room is going to be one that I'll be interested in watching and how it comes together. And then the tight ends too, like you talked about them. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Oscar Delp and Lawson Lucky and what they bring to the table. Obviously, with their versatility, not only catching the ball, but also what they can do with their hand in the dirt, lining up in 11 or 12 personnel and giving them good looks, good boxes to be able to run the football well. And that's obviously something that Bobo has used well. And they've recruited a hell of a job recruiting and stockpiling this tight end room for them.
Yeah, and Urasek was off as an undrafted free agent to the NFL, who was a stud at Stanford that they brought in as a transfer. I mean, yeah, it shouldn't even have to be said that these are the two that this is the best tight end pair in college football. Um, but the reason you bring it up, it's because the gap between this group of tight ends and any other group of tight ends in college football, that gap is greater. Like your gap between these two guys and like the top two guys on the second best group of tight ends in college football, that gap is ginormous. And then everyone else is kind of like clustered, like this is by far and away. Like, you treat these guys as a defense as the threats that they are, you know, particularly Lawson Lucky. I'm very high on him. I think he's an absolute stud. So, yeah, just a fantastic position group. That's definitely going to be an impact for them. So that's all the skill positions. You can't talk about Georgia and your expectations for them in 2025 without talking about the line of scrimmage.
Can I say real quick about the O line? Am I misremembering? Because when I think of their offensive line last year, I think of that Ole Miss game, right? And I think of Carson Beck really struggling at times. Now, I think he didn't help the O line in terms of his progressions and whatever else, but like we talked about that O line and everyone like about being one of the better groups in college football. Were they disappointing last year? And like, is this also going to be a drop off from them? Like, what are your thoughts on that transition there?
I don't think it was a disappointment. Um, if you remember, like, Ole Miss had like the most pressures in college football, like, as a team. They also led the country in sacks. So like Ole Miss, it wasn't just Georgia that Ole Miss was getting after. Like, it was everyone that Ole Miss was attacking.
Yeah. So like
So,
it was Ole Miss, Notre Dame, and Texas that really gave them fits, which
and those were
three of the four best
three,
defense lines in the country outside of Ohio
yeah,
State,
or
probably.
yeah, three of the five, maybe three of the six.
Yeah,
Yeah, like,
Michigan.
you know,
Yeah.
Georgia.
Oh,
but
yeah,
but like I don't think it was necessarily a letdown.
Okay.
And the thing is, maybe at the tackle positions, sure. But what you're having to replace is, well, you lose four of your guys. You're losing those three interior guys, uh, Ratledge, Wilson, and Fairchild. I thought those guys were awesome all year. I thought they were fantastic. And at that tackle spot, Ernest Green, and then
Monroe
shoot, what's his
Freeling.
name? Yeah, yeah. They both played significant number of snaps, but also Mr. Hyphenated name, who I'm forgetting, that also played undrafted free agent for the Broncos. Anyways, the point is they lost a lot of talent on that offensive line from last year, and I thought they were pretty good last year. I know you want to look at that Ole Miss game and say, oh, whatever. No, they were pretty good. All right.
Oh, Xavier Truss. Is that who you're thinking of?
Xavier Truss. Oh, sorry, yeah, it wasn't hyphenated. My bad. But so you have these guys on this team. I think a lot of these guys, Freeling, Morris, Bobo, Calhoun, Green, most of them got pretty significant number of snaps, last year. Question is, like, how is this unit going to work together? First of all, I think they're probably talented enough. And then what about the depth? Like, I think you have size coming off the bench. Like, you have
Size and talent and
big,
recruiting prowess.
yeah. But would you consider that depth for this offensive line, right? Like, if some of these guys go down, like if Bobo goes down or Calhoun goes down, like, you think like there's a lot of plug and play here? Because, like, either way, you have to project the starters. You have to project these backups because we haven't seen a ton. I mean, the starters have kind of seen some play, but, like, yeah, big question mark for me, man. Because, like, I was trying to, like, tier out. I tried to tier positions in the SEC, and, like, I was ranking the tiers of offensive line. Tier one, it's like, okay, probably, like, Florida, Alabama, A&M. Is Auburn in there? I don't know if they're in tier one. I'm trying to, like, put Arkansas, and then I'm like, what? Where do I put Georgia? Like, relative to these other offensive lines in the SEC? And you mentioned it earlier, like, their schedule maybe isn't as tough as, like, some of the other SEC teams, but you're going to be playing some damn good defensive lines. You're going to be playing Alabama. You're going to be playing Auburn. You're going to be playing Texas. You're going to be playing Florida. Ole Miss, Tennessee will still have some decent pieces there on the defensive line. It's, you're still going to be playing some good teams with some solid defensive lines. So, in order for Gunnar Stockton to be, successful, I think you got to give him everything that you possibly can. Will this offensive line be able to do that? I don't know. If they're not a top half offensive line in the SEC, I would be a little bit concerned about this offense playing against some of these defenses.
Definitely. And the other thing too is like O lines. You talked about depth. Like last year, Georgia battled with injuries on the O line, right? So you had guys like Morris and Bobo and Freeling, like Ernest Green, like those guys played a lot of snaps, which is great. But like that was your depth last year. Were those guys, and now they're your starters. And so now who's your depth? It's an interesting kind of scenario. It is hard to sit here and be like, or it would be easy to sit here and just blindly assume that like, okay, yeah, like I've seen the way they've recruited. I just trust that they'll have guys ready to go, and they might, but like who knows until you throw them out there. It is hard to rely upon a bunch of second and third year guys potentially, in your two deeps. So that's the one thing that would be remiss. If that is, you do have some injuries, you could see some problems there. And then I'm with you too. Like if O-line's so important, man. So important in the SEC, especially if you're going to have an identity like Georgia wants to have. Uh, it's going to be something to monitor, no doubt. And honestly, like, you won't know until you know. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, like, it's like, uh-oh. And offensive line is something that generally, you start to gel, especially like barring injuries, you start to gel later on, but it's hard to see drastic improvement like during the season, and so that's something to definitely monitor as we go throughout this SEC schedule.
Yeah, and you got Bama week 5. That's the big game, right, for you. So you need to have those boys rolling because that defensive line is going to be coming. Speaking of defensive lines, uh, I mean, on defensive side of the ball, your coaching staff is phenomenal, right? You lose Mikael Williams, you lose Jalen Walker, who were both first round draft picks on this defensive line. You lose Warren Brinson, you lose Nazir Stackhouse, you lose Ingram Dawkins. That's a lot of names that you just
It's
lost that were like
crazy.
really good
Chaz
in the
Chambliss.
NFL.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, we talking about just D line, but yeah.
Yep. Sorry, but like the defensive line, that's a lot. Here's the thing, though. I'm still very confident in this defensive line being a good unit. Elite, like Georgia elite, I don't know, right? So Christian Miller, obviously, stud. Um, I know your opinions on like what that interior will look like. That we think that they'll be a good pair. I think they're going to find some pass rushers there on the edge. Like they have the talent. Is uh, are you going to see contributions from freshman? Are you going to see, Medozier, the Army transfer? Is he going to come in like and be the 7 sack guy that he was at Army? I don't know. Are they going to use more blitz packages to get like C.J. Allen moving and Raylan Wilson just out in space, disrupting, during. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it, but they do have talent here. But it's just kind of like that offensive line where it's like I'm a little bit worried because some of these guys are a little bit unproven. Which how many years though, like were you and I watching Alabama as kids, and like there would just be so many unproven guys in the Alabama defense, but you just like knew that they were going to have a good defense anyways because you just knew that they had great talent and a great culture, and they were competing with the best in practice every single day. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this defensive line? And I'll extend it actually to the front seven.
Yeah, a part of it is like, yeah, we just trust Kirby Smart to be able to replace those guys, but sometimes it's easier said than done, and sometimes like there are like this could still be a really solid group, and if you're talking about 95% of the country, they would do whatever it takes to get this group. But you're talking about going up against the elite of the elite and trying to win national championships. And sometimes that's the difference between getting off the field on third down and just having dudes that can just take over plays at a time. Uh, that's where I worry is like, I'm sure they're in there somewhere. And at some point in the very near future, we're going to have Georgia guys come off the board early in the NFL draft in this front seven. Um, but I want to know who, and I want to know if this year they really rise to that occasion. And that could be where the ultimate difference is. But it's a fun group, obviously. A lot of talent, a lot of names familiar with recruiting that you've paid attention, which is no surprise to Georgia fans, right? They've got talent. It'll just be about, how quickly can some of those young guys come along, do a couple of your transfers, come in and hit the ground running. I about the linebacker group, I think you probably have two of the better linebackers, or one of the better linebacker pairs in the country, and then just freakish talent behind them with Chris Cole and Justin Williams as well. Obviously, the headliners being C.J. Allen and Raylan Wilson, right? A couple former 5-stars themselves. But yeah, it's an interesting group. But the good news is, like, you can, I guess, the thing with Georgia and their schedule, and we'll talk about it later on. Like, that Bama game's a big one. It's no doubt. Like, you win that game, you put yourself in a very elite spot to go to the playoffs. But like, you don't really have to be hitting your stride until, when I'm looking at the schedule, is like November, right? Or even like late October, right? By the time you get to that second bye week, you get Ole Miss bye week, and then it's like Florida and Texas and Georgia Tech all November. I think that's your toughest month without a doubt. So, like, by then, that's when it's really gonna have to, hit the ground running. So hopefully you have some of those younger guys come along and can start being difference makers, where you can just kind of rush for. And I mean, look at that Texas game, in that, both of them really, but that first one especially, like, getting after Quinn Ewers, like, those guys, they just took over, and your offense was playing terrible, and it didn't matter because you just did whatever you wanted on that front seven.
Yeah, it may not be as good, but you just gotta trust the coaching staff and the talent that they have on the squad. I think the secondary, you have questions. I think you have some seriously talented and guys that are returning that are really good. But Malachi Starks was a stud. Dalen Everett also a stud. Who's coming in for those guys, right?
Isn't Dalen Everett's back?
You're right, Dalen Everett. Oh, duh. Malachi Starks being gone, that's a big deal. First round draft pick. I mean, he was an impact player as a true freshman. Now, speaking of guys that were impact players as true freshmen, at the safety position, KJ Bolden last year was phenomenal. I mean, what a flip uh, for Georgia, man. He was so good. But I don't know. How are you? Like, Daniel Harris taking over that spot from Julio Humphrey last year. I think Daniel Harris was really solid in that spot when he eventually kind of overtook him. Ellis Robinson's, a young guy, that 5-star kid. I mean, is loaded with talent. Um, However, there were some games, there's some moments where stuff broke down last year, and if you don't have as elite of a pass rush as you did last year, like, are you worried at all about this secondary?
I I kind of trust it to come together. Like, I feel like the past couple teams we've been talking about, Florida and Auburn, right? Like, in other videos, it's like young talent, like guys that have played a little bit, gotten their feet wet here and there. Obviously, impressed enough for the coaching staff to not really overhaul any of those rooms. Obviously, KJ Bolden's a stud, right? He will be, your next elite Georgia safety going to the NFL. Dalen Everett, you trust. Opposite him, I think Harris and even Ellis Robinson. Like, people forget, like, one of the best corner prospects we've ever seen, redshirted last year, because that's how freaking talented they were. I'll throw another name out there, a guy that you would love to have on your team right now if you were Georgia's AJ Harris, guy that transferred out of there last offseason, went to Penn State because he couldn't play necessarily on the field, and it's freaking awesome for them. And he's going to be one of the best players on one of the better teams in the country too. So, yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there, but we'll see. I think in terms of, like, yeah, Starks was so good, man, for so long, and he like made everyone else around you better. Like he had a guy like how often do you have to game plan for like safeties, right? And like he was one you actually had to. So it'll be interesting to see who takes up the playmaking mantle and like does KJ Bolden step into it? Is Daniel Harris like going to be a ball hawk? Is guys like that and what really goes on in that defensive back room? And then even injuries too. Like obviously when Ellis Robinson's your third corner, that's like a great problem to have. But outside of the couples, your starting safeties, even your nickel, like who are the guys that you trust to play if guys do go down, or if you have like 5 or 6 DB packages, like who's the sixth one you're trotting out there late in the games to get off the field on third down. So it'll be interesting to see. And obviously, but with Kirby Smart and there's just ridiculous amount of coaching
Yeah.
staff and the DBs, I feel pretty good about them to be able to hit their potential, and their potential is high.
Yeah, so I'll say this. I have a tough time with just like the question marks that I have about this team. I have a real tough time saying like, oh yeah, this is like your SEC champion. I don't feel that way with the schedule now, and we're gonna talk win totals here. All right. Well, actually, I guess we should talk special teams first. I mean, you have a great kicker, you got a great punter, you got great special teams. All right, done. All right, we're done talking about special teams. There we go, great special teams. Your win total at 9.5, juiced pretty heavily to the over. I, as crazy as this seems, like I'm not confident enough in the offensive line and a lot of the new faces on that defense and what you lost. Like, I'm just not sure you properly replenished everything, even though like the talent is there, right? But are you replenishing the production? 2026 Georgia, 2027 Georgia. Like, I have no doubts that that talent for those teams to be elite is on this roster. But like, I don't know. I have a hard time picturing Georgia getting to double digit wins, which is just sounds stupid coming out of my mouth. Because you look at the schedule and like your toughest games are Bama, Texas, and Florida, and then after that, like it's hard to picture them losing any of those games against Georgia Tech in Atlanta, Mercedes Benz. They gave them a heck of a game last year, so I'm just like, I shouldn't be leaning under, but I think I'm gonna lean under 9.5, which is wild that I'm even thinking about that. But I don't know, man. It's just not enough not enough horsepower for me for some reason. Um, all over the place is what I'm trying to talk about. Like when I look at Alabama, like I see horsepower at every position, you know, like at every single one except maybe running back. When I look at Florida, like I see more. My brain sees more horsepower on Florida, like across the board. Like I don't know, I don't know.
Well, it's also like Georgia's best positions, like so special teams, right? Inside linebacker, tight end, like not your dynamic
Yes,
difference making positions. Does that make sense there? Like
I agree with you.
positions of value, left tackle, quarterback, wide receiver, like
All things that
defensive
Florida
end or
has.
edge rusher, like
All
things
things that Florida has.
question marks. I think the talent's there, no doubt. I'm with you on just being nervous to get to 10 wins. By the way, like, and the reason why I'm on the under a 9.5 with you, I'm not going to take it. But if I had to take it,
Oh, you are leaning under too. Okay, so I'm
yeah,
not crazy.
it's plus 135, plus 138. It's minus 170 to get to 10 wins. And
No
the other
thanks.
thing, too, is I think this Georgia team is more vulnerable than other Georgia teams we've seen in the last 4 years to lose games to teams that are like a tier below them. Tennessee, Auburn, Ole Miss, Georgia Tech.
It's
Like
not as big of a talent gap.
one of those teams is going to get Georgia. And that means they're going to have to go 2-1 against Bama, Florida, and Texas. Now, you get all of them at home or neutral site, which is great. Your schedule dynamics somehow you play 3 road games all year, and one of them is Mississippi State. How did that happen? Great work by the Georgia Athletic Department. But that, yeah, I think if I'm gonna be betting Georgia to win whatever, I'm gonna have to wait until like December when the college football playoff comes out, and it's like, okay, the questions I have been answered, and this is a team ready to win the title. At this point, I'm not ready to say that, and so that's just where I'm at.
Yeah, if you're a Georgia fan, you're still watching this and you're frustrated with what we're saying. I understand because like every word that I've said, this video sounds stupid because first of all, we're grading Georgia on a different scale than we're grading the rest of college football. Let's be mindful of that.
Probably Georgia fatigue too.
Yeah, yeah. Also that too. So just take what we're saying, I guess, with a grain of salt. But I hope at least if you're a Georgia fan, you at least understand why someone in our position or maybe other fan bases like have concerns. I mean, I see stars next to a lot of names. Uh, Still some unproven aspects, and I worry about the offensive line, man. Um, that's a big one, dude. That's a big one. Like those upper echelon teams, like the other ones, like Alabama, Texas. I guess I'll put LSU. Like they don't have the same concerns. I think the unprovenness on the offensive line. Maybe some changes. Florida, like they're just a lot of better. I know.
We've said too
I'm not
many
trying to say
nice
that
things
Florida's
about
better than.
Florida.
I'm not trying to say that Florida's better than Georgia. I'm just trying to say like there are position groups that I'm worried about on Georgia that are not concerns for me on Florida. So yeah, just I don't know. Every word I say as I continue with this video just sounds more and more dumb coming out of my mouth because I'm saying Georgia's not going to win double digit games, but who knows, man? They could totally win the SEC championship. Gunnar Stockton could be amazing. Nate Frazier could run for 1,200 yards. CJ Allen could just be an absolute animal. Christian Miller could have 6 sacks and like 47 pressures. Who knows? But while I'm excited, I'm actually very excited to see this up and coming talent for Georgia kind of step up and see some faces that we haven't gotten to see a lot in for these Bulldogs. But I just hope you guys understand the concerns that myself and CD have for the Georgia Bulldogs.